You are now live on Channel 8 and YouTube and are free to start the meeting.
Great. Good evening. I am John Caplis, and as it stands, I am the most senior member, so I'm going to start the meeting off for the Templeton Advisory Committee dated January 27th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. The Templeton Advisory Committee regular business meeting is being broadcast live on TCTV Channel 8 and TCTV YouTube channel, responsibly made to comments to the TCTV YouTube channel as time permits. The agenda and meeting material of this business meeting are posted to the www.mytowngovernment no later than 48 hours prior to the scheduled meeting in accordance with Commonwealth of Massachusetts open meeting laws. The chairperson reserves the right to add to or to remove items from the agenda or change the order of the agenda. However, the agenda is posted in advance to give the community and public time to review the agenda items to ensure the meeting runs within a lot of time frames. And obviously this is via YouTube or Zoom. So by open meeting law, we need to, any votes that we make tonight, because we do have a quorum, we do have 4 individuals, need to be a roll call vote. So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:34. If everybody can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Because this is the first meeting of the advisory committee to have a quorum of 4 individuals. And it's pretty much fairly new for all of us. So we need to go and reorganize. So in order to reorganize, we need to get a chair, vice chair, and a clerk. A person may nominate himself or herself. Nominations do not need to be seconded. Nominations must be accepted by the nominee when not self-nominated. Nominations must be confirmed by a roll call vote. So at this time, I'll take any recommendations for a chair at this point?
I'd like to nominate John Caplis as chair of the advisory committee.
I second that nomination.
Excellent. And I'll accept that nomination at this time. Now we need to go through a roll call vote. Cameron?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes, agreed.
Yes, agreed.
And I agree as well. Next, we need to nominate a vice chair. So I'll take nominations at this point.
I will nominate myself.
Say it again, please.
I will nominate myself.
And I will second that nomination for vice chair. At this point, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Foyts?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Next, we need to nominate or recognize nominate a clerk. Clerk's responsibilities is very, very, very useful. Signatures of the minutes, and obviously help with minutes as well. I know Mr. Graves does a great deal with the minutes, and he's doing an awesome job. But we still need a clerk to endorse those minutes once we approve them. So I would take nominations for a clerk at this point.
I would nominate Cameron.
It was coming.
He's not. I'll second that nomination.
Oh boy. I guess I accept. All right.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Again, roll vote. Paul?
Yes, I agree.
No?
Yes.
Cam?
Yep.
And I vote yes as well. Okay. Excellent. Moving on. We need to review and approve of the minutes of December 2nd of 2021. Obviously, this stuff was all pushed out via email within the last week and a half by Mr. Graves. Did everybody get an opportunity to review that said minutes? Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. Anybody have any questions with that? Comments?
I get a procedural question. Adam, are we allowed to approve the meeting minutes even though we weren't in attendance of that meeting?
Yes, you are.
We are? Okay.
Sorry, Adam, I answered for you. I apologize.
You're the chair.
But yes, you are.
All right,
Did you get
I'd like to motion to approve the meeting minutes and accept them as written.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion?
No discussion.
I have no discussion. Excellent. We'll do a roll call vote. Paul?
Yes, agreed.
Cameron?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. At this time, do we have any public comments? Justice, do you see anybody on your end?
Justice, are you there?
There are no comments in the YouTube chat at this time.
Thank you so much. Going into correspondence, December 2021 resignation of Miss Honsa. Just for the record, and that's 5 Alpha, Miss Honsa. Does anybody have any questions with that? We're just acknowledging the fact that they've resigned their position on the board, on the committee. And we need to accept that. And I'll do
I do want to just raise a point on that one. The PDF document that was labeled for Honsa is actually Will Spring's resignation document. So it's labeled in the packet incorrectly. I just want to, so if anybody has to dig up those records, you're gonna have a tough time finding it.
Okay, that's my fault. I'll take care of that.
Way to go, John.
Yeah, take responsibility for your actions, I guess. Okay, okay, so resignation of Miss Honsa. I'll take a roll call vote to accept that. Yeah.
You need a motion first, right? A motion to accept the resignation.
Yes,
I'm going to make a motion to approve all 3 resignation letters as written.
I will second that.
okay. And he seconds. So that was resignation of Miss Honsa, resignation of Mr. Springs, and resignations of Miss Bartolomeo. I have a motion, a second. I have any other discussion? I see none. Cameron?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes,
No?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. The budget versus actual document for November 2021. Kelly did some great work, put all this stuff together. And yeah, I'm sure this was also pushed out. Did everybody get a chance to look at that document? Anybody have any questions with that document? No, and at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to accept.
Okay,
the document.
I have a motion to accept the document as is. Do I have a second?
I second.
Yeah, a motion and a second. Any other discussion for the November budget versus actual? I see none. Cameron?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes,
No?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. moving on to the December 2021 budget versus actual document. I'll entertain a motion at this point, unless people have discussion at this point. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept.
Okay, I have a motion to accept. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Cameron?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
No?
Yes,
And I vote yes as well. Okay, we're going into old business. From September, the advisory committee had a recommendation policy on the general stabilization fund. Did everybody get a chance to look at that? Yeah, okay.
yes.
I would like to some discussion on that if possible. I mean, if anybody has questions, comments. I mean, obviously the advisory committee, did a really good job writing it up. The past chairman, Mr. Rivard, actually did a really good job with the write-up. The only concern that I had was, again, I'm old school, so is the policymakers. The policymakers in town, I would believe would be the board, the select board, I would assume, based on the way things are. So my recommendation would be to do a recommendation for the general stabilization fund to be a policy governed by the Board of Selectmen. Anybody have any questions with that? I mean, unless I'm off base, I mean, please let me know.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I can say, based on the policies that we've adopted going back to the select board, and then obviously the select board even now making even more where we're putting more money into stabilization. I could say the town under that leadership has excelled, and we're now well over $1 million in stabilization. And I think that's something to be proud of, considering the work that's went into this, and certainly something the advisory committee can keep an eye on and continue seeing that financial progress grow. That's all I really have.
Excellent. It's just my point as far as the advisory committee, our standpoint is to advise, the Board of Selectmen based on what the people want and what the people need, on and advise, whatever organization we typically the Board of Selectmen. So I was always confused with the advisory committee writing policy for the town. I mean, I'm sure that, there's people out there that think that's different, or you can't be doing that, but I'm just not sure how that's done. And when the policymakers are the select board, not the advisory committee. We're a committee that advises the select board on actions and financial actions in the warrant articles. So my point being is, what I'd like to see happen is this committee come up with, I even saw Templeton Advisory Committee financial policies when we already have financial policies in place, governed by UMass and the group that helped us write those policies a few years back. So I don't understand why that's even here. It seems like it's a duplicate why are we doing duplicates here? But I like the group the advisory committee, to look at that, and and I like some feedback. I mean, I like to advise the select board on whatever policies we want to develop that's going to help them, and then let them make the determination if the policy is going to be in place or not. That's their job. Our job is to advise them. I mean, that's the way I look at this job, the way I read it. But what are your thoughts, Bill?
I had a chance to review the general stabilization fund policy. I have no problem with it. I do think that a target of 10% of the budget should be a target that you and the Board of Selectmen work towards. I think that's prudent. My personal feeling is that it should be even higher, but at least in the short term, a target of 10%. You should expend your efforts working towards that target. That's
I
all
agree.
Well, what was the policy change to? You just, I mean, it was just an update to the policy, the financial policies. Adam,
When you were there, Mr. Caplis, I think what they did is because the town came from being in relatively tough shape, they increased the targets. So whatever the targets were when they were adopted by you, we just increased it a few, 3 or 4 percentage points.
okay,
So obviously we're raising that target and we're trying to do what we can to keep those levels as high as we can. Like I agree with Mr. Francis. I mean, we obviously want to do what we can to build up, being at 1.2 million in stabilization. Obviously, I would like to get us even higher. So that's a goal. And I think we're going to try to build up as much as we can. We did recently a policy change where we're going to be able to deposit more into the OPEX stabilization, the CAPEX stabilization, as well as our OPEB. Because remember, once that retirement dips off in 2036, we have to start tackling the OPEB front. So we're putting more away for that to really get ourselves best situated moving forward. But I was fortunate to take over at a time when we built a pretty solid foundation. We just got to continue that.
okay. Excellent. Anybody else have anything? Paul, Cam?
Nothing.
Yeah, I guess my question is, I'm not sure really, I don't have a black line to take the advisory committee stabilization fund, what was previous and what's changed currently. Can anybody give me a rundown on exactly what's being proposed as a change or amended in that stabilization policy?
I think it's not so much you want to change it. I think it's whose authority is to write the policy for the town.
Oh, okay. So this is a discussion more about who should be writing what percentages. Okay.
What policy?
And so if we're going to speak on that, I mean, my understanding would be that, we're not elected officials here. We're appointed officials by an elected official at this point in time. And we can also appoint our own members. So at that point, to me, it doesn't make sense as representation of the town. I think our body here, and correct me if you guys disagree, but I feel that we're an extra set of eyes for certain things. So when budget season comes up, we're an extra set of eyes where, we can review and voice our concerns as that goes up. But I would extend this to the select board through Adam and Justice is, as we start to think about some of these financial things, not writing the policies, but, including us in maybe small spin-off subcommittees and saying, let's get somebody from the advisory committee on eyes. And it's just as that checkpoint. It's not so much that we really need to be there to craft and draft, but it's that if we share that kind of collaboration, I think we can come out with a better system for what currently works for Templeton. And I think that's really what our capacity is. So it's not drafting our own policies. We leave that to the select board who are elected officials, but we should be that extra set of eyes. And that's my opinion on it.
No, 100%. I think, and again, having our approach of being advising, I have no problem, taking a policy that's well written, it's well written, and just, bringing it up to the select board for them to review it to say, okay, is this something that's doable for the town policies? And if it is, then that's great. I mean, I just don't want to have, you get policies in like 3 different locations that you have committees writing their own policies. It's like, how is that even possible when we're not even an elected official? And I understand, I mean, and some people might not disagree with that. And I'm like, okay, but again, the buck has to stop somewhere. Somebody has to take responsibility for that action of writing a policy that we have to follow. That's my standpoint. We'll table these, I guess, till the next meeting to determine if, we do want to, look at these and potentially take these itself and then push them to the Board of Selectmen for their review and their approval. Does that sound like a fair deal?
Yeah, I think we should table it for one meeting.
Okay.
One meeting, act on it at the next meeting.
Absolutely. Okay.
And I also feel that we, as an advisory board, I think the policy as written is good. And I think, advising the selectmen as a target, the town manager's targets,
Yep.
that's, we're doing our job if we do that.
And that's exactly what we're trying to, that's exactly right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
For the question you had, general stabilization policy, town shall have a target of balance of not less than 8%. I believe when you were there, it was 5%.
Was,
And then the capital stabilization policy, they increased it. The town shall have a goal to maintain a capital stabilization fund equal to 2%. I think when you were there, it was 1%.
it was.
So they increased those targets. But that's obviously something that I think the board's continuously working to improve upon.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it would, I guess, like Noel said, I think it would be prudent for us to, with our recommendations, based on the financial stability of the town and the direction that it's moving in, is to, just like, and again, I'm sure that the select board would agree that obviously that target needs to be increased potentially, every other year or every third year or whatever, based on the income and the new growth. Okay. Ways.
Need a vote to table.
Yeah, I need a vote to table that. I need a roll call vote to table. Any other discussion? I see none. Cameron, to table it?
Yes, to table.
Paul?
Yes, agree to table.
I would agree to table.
And I agree as well. Okay, moving on to Bravo, old business Bravo. Comparison communities discussion. It was tabled from previous meetings. I went through it again. Not that I got to give kudos to Mr. Spring. He did a fantastic job by the review that he did. So I don't want to take anything away from him at all. I think it was really good what he did. And so what I did, if everybody saw those, I went through them as well, looking at regional school districts, looking at the by capita. We did do a request to the select board asking if they had any particular specific areas that they wanted us to look at to comparison with other communities, if they had any. I mean, obviously we looked at a lot of different areas. From the residential level of population, tax liens, debt, education expenses, tax expenditures, et cetera. And we came up with the list that Mr. Spring came up with, which was, from Adams to Dayton to Halifax to Lancaster to Montague to Montague to Orange, Rutland, Shirley, Sterling, Upton, West Boylston, and Williamstown. So what I did is I looked at that, then I went back into what Mr. Spring showed me to look at the comparisons to see if we can break that down, because we only need 10. So to see which ones we can potentially take off. And I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but it will be going out. So basically I looked at all the regional school districts, kept all the comparison stuff that was originally factored in, and came up with a list of like this: Dayton, Halifax, Lancaster, Montague, Orange, Rutland, Shirley, Sterling, Upton, and Williamstown. Those look like the best 10 communities for comparison communities of Templeton. And again, this is 90% based on what Mr. Spring brought to the table, and 10% of the work that I did trying to bring that down to the 10 comparison communities based on a lot of the things that Mr. Spring brought to the table and what I'm bringing to the table now. Now this was already brought forth. I mean, this is our first meeting, so I'm also going to table this to the next meeting. But we need to get this done, not like tomorrow, but we need to get it done soon, because everything that Templeton decides or the select board look at is off a comparison of other communities, and these 10 communities are going to be crucial to their decision-making process during, especially the budget season, potentially.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So I agree. I think this could be a good opportunity because we're anticipating to have our select board meeting. It'll be a joint meeting with the advisory committee, as I mentioned before, on the ARPA, as they're putting together their spending plan. So that way the advisory committee could have input on the roughly $2.4 million that will be coming to Templeton. That could be a good opportunity to have a joint discussion with the select board on it.
Okay, as long as we can add that to the agenda, that'll be great.
We could do that.
Okay, super. Does anybody else agree with that? Anybody else have any issues with that?
I agree.
Right, excellent. Since we agree, I don't think I need to make a motion for that. Since we just agreed that we could potentially have a joint meeting with the select board. And obviously gives our members another opportunity to take a look at those comparisons that I just put out. Does anybody else have any questions with that?
No questions.
No questions. Okay, excellent. Anything for you, Mr. Francis? Any questions?
No.
Okay. Okay, new business. We already did the reorganization. Next is B, town bylaw changes, input, and present advisory committee recommendation for the Board of Selectmen. Basically, one of the Board of Selectmen meetings, there was a presentation done by Mr. Bennett concerning changes to the bylaw concerning the advisory committee. That's, I believe it's 6A, right? I'm sorry, 7B. 7B. Did everybody get a chance to look at that? Cameron, you're smiling.
It's funny because now the roles are reversed, right? We were trying to do this, what, 3-4 years ago, and now Bennett's recommending for the exact same thing we were recommending for. So it's come full circle. Why did he fight us so hard in the first place? Did he just come around?
It's almost like verbatim, almost.
Right. I don't. It's either it's pandering or posturing, one of the two. But
I don't know, but I had no issue with the presentation. I know Mr. Garney was there along with Mr. Francis. We're all looking at each other like this is what we, should have been done like, years ago, because I think it makes the most amount of sense for the community. The numbers of 7 of bringing it down to potentially 5. It just makes more sense this way. How the annual report's done, the vacancies, the appointment terms, officers, members' eligibility. I think it just drives home like, will make the board or the committee, much more, I don't know, validated, I guess. I don't know what the term would be, but I think it would definitely efficient. There's the word. Thank you. Especially when you talk about the town meeting and, the special town meeting that we have to have and the amount of money we have to put out there, which isn't a lot, but nobody typically comes. So it's like, why are we having to do this when we don't have to? We can still have the special town meeting. We just don't have to potentially post it. We can still post it on our websites and our web links, the town's web links. But I don't know why we're again, full circle, Cameron, full circle. So anybody else?
The only thing I do struggle with, Mr. Chairman, is, if we're acting in an advisory capacity as the advisory committee here, that level of separation where if you fill an advisory committee out with an appointing board, the select board, right, saying here's a bunch of yes men or women and just filling out the board. And I think when we did this proposal, or I made this proposal way back when that we were going to potentially get it on there, was going out to, say, the school committee and allowing the voting members of the school, Templeton members of the school committee, to appoint an advisory committee member, sewer commission, water commission, light commission. So you have elected bodies that don't necessarily get a firsthand say to the select board on advisory capacity, but almost allowing them, who they have appointed authority or elected authority rather, to appoint somebody to the advisory committee. And that way you kind of get it so that if, say, the sewer commission advisory committee member is no longer there, they have the responsibility to fill that vacancy, go out, solicit somebody that can root for them or impact something on the advisory committee level. And
Mhm.
my only hesitation is Templeton is very small, and
Right.
the pool of people that want to get involved in politics is very slim as well. I'm not here by choice. I'm here by obligation, John. So when we're talking about that, it's very easy to get a group of yes men on the advisory committee. That's my only fear, is then it just becomes a rubber stamp committee, and what's the point?
Right, exactly. And you don't want that. You don't want
So,
that.
That's my 2 cents on the idea.
All right, thanks, Karen. Anybody else? You have anything, Mr. Francis?
Yeah, I had a chance to review this, and I personally believe in small committees, and I think 5 for a town this size should not have an advisory committee with more than 5 people. I think you're gonna have diversity and efficiency. And also, it's been a struggle to fill the membership of this committee, particularly in the last year. And I think part of it is that having 7, it makes it all the more difficult to have a quorum or people leave. So I just think 5 is a good number. And as far as I don't think it ends up with a committee of yes men. I think you can still have a diversity within the town. I think it just works.
Excellent. Paul, you got anything?
Yeah, being new to helping out with some town government, this is my first go. What I like what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing is that it seems that we all have sort of strong personalities. We're able to speak our minds, and I really like that. And we're not afraid to hurt anyone's feelings.
No.
Because when it comes to this stuff, there is no feeling.
You're in the right place, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So that's what I'm hearing, and that's I'm happy to be a part of it. So thank you all for having me.
Oh, excellent.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have my hand up. So
What's that?
I have my hand up.
Oh, yes, I see it.
Oh, okay, sorry. No, I was also going to add to, this was a recommendation that came out from our Department of Revenue. One of those recommendations was to decrease the size of the advisory committee from 7 to 5. So this goes, and I know it's an important goal for folks in town to really try to strive to meet that Division of Local Services review. When we first had it, there was a significant amount. We brought that down, and this would fulfill one of those recommendations from that report from the state.
Excellent. Well, do you want to work on this a little bit more, do you think, or do you want to? I'm ready for a motion now to recommend this to the select board for amendments to the proposed changes for Chapter 9 of the general bylaws. But if we want more time to look at this, Adam, how much more time do you think we have?
Mid-March, I would need everything finalized for the select board to approve the warrant.
March, okay. Do you want to hold off on the recommendation for this now and then get some more feedback at another meeting?
I'm ready to go forward.
Okay, I
I'm
got
ready to go forward.
Okay, so
Let's get it in the hands of the selectmen.
okay, so a motion to accept the advisory committee's I'm sorry, where am I? Motion to recommend the select board the following amendments to the proposed changes to Chapter 9 of the general bylaws would be the motion, and I guess you would be like a so moved.
Yes, so I would second that.
A so moved. I have a second.
Oh, I second. Sorry.
Okay, no, I only have 2 other members. So any discussion? Cameron, I got you at point 2, but go ahead.
Yeah, I want to just motion for an amendment on the current motion.
Okay.
Robert's Rules of Order is it's lacking here, but making an amendment to recommend as written, except for, let me pull it up real quick. There is wording in there that suggests on filling vacancies. It says the select board shall thereupon fill such vacancies of the committee. and this appointment shall expire at the final adjournment of the next succeeding annual town meeting. Adam, I would defer to you on the wording of this, but striking it possibly from succeeding annual town meeting to next town meeting, whether it's special or annual or whatever. That way it the vacancies are filled by the select board, but ultimately the town moderator can exercise his duty at the next meeting if so chosen.
That's correct. Basically, if there's a resignation, then the select board would have authority, but then it's up to the moderator ultimately. So the select board only have authority to fill it for that duration of time.
Which would be pretty much the remaining fiscal or till the next appointment. But what I'm suggesting here is instead of just on the annual, which I believe is in May, or is it in June now? I forget, but
Right.
being able to do it in the fall special meeting that we typically do. So if there is a vacancy after appointment and happens, in August, say, there's time for the moderator to find a backfill if need be in the fall town meeting. It's almost giving them two options or two opportunities to commit to their duties.
So you're saying the moderator could appoint at the annual and special?
At any town meeting, just striking annual and just giving it that rigid flexibility at any town meeting. So I make a motion to strike and
annual.
and amend that. Yeah.
I got you. I got a motion to strike annual on 9-3 vacancies, expire on the final adjudication of the next succeeding town meeting, not annual town meeting.
Right.
Okay, I got you. All right, so I have a motion. I have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion, a second by Mr. Francis. Any other discussion? Keep Robert's rules going here. No other discussion? Mr. Francis?
They vote in favor.
Yes. Okay. Paul?
Yes.
Cameron?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
And I think we still have an open motion out that we have to close.
Right. And we have to,
So now that that's amended, I think now it's just a motion to approve as amended.
Right, a motion to approve as amended, correct.
I would make that motion.
And I second it.
A motion, a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Paul?
Yes.
Cam?
Yes.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Capital Improvement Advisory Committee. We need a representative on the Capital Improvement Committee. Right now, I'm on the RAC committee for the school district, trying to redo the agreement with the regional school district. But I do need an individual that wants to be volunteer to be the representative on the Capital Improvement Committee. How many volunteers?
I'll volunteer.
Great. Mr. Francis. Okay, I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Francis to the Capital Improvement Committee as the advisory committee's representative. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion, a second. Any discussion? I see none. Paul?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Francis?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay. We're moving on. Ms. Honsa did a virtual ATFC conference, which obviously cost money. So I'm looking for a motion potentially to pay that $25 from the advisory committee's budget. Everybody get a chance to see the invoice and stuff and the W-9?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So
You said it was 25 in the amount of $25.
that's correct, sir.
I would move to pay that.
You would? Okay. I have a motion to pay it. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a second. Any other discussion? Cam, what's your thoughts?
I'm not even familiar with the Association of Town Finance Committees is. Is this something that's like a subset of the MMA, or is this, what services do these guys provide?
It was some type of webinar series that she went through to educate her on the ATFC membership, how that works, the webinar, how it works. There was like 3 or 4 different series that she had to attend, which was supposed to help her, broaden her horizons on the advisory committee, which again, the members at that time voted for her to go and do. So it would be our responsibility to make sure that bill's paid, reimbursed, because I believe she paid up front.
Yes, she did.
No.
And that was that in our budget? This is coming from our budgeted monies, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's money in the budget for that.
Okay.
Yes, it's
Perfect.
yes.
No, I was
further
just going to say,
questions,
so
Chair.
that bill isn't, so she didn't pay out of pocket, that was actually charged directly to the town. So that would come out of the advisory committee's employee support account. That's why if you look at the bill from the ATFC that actually is addressed directly to the town, she didn't pay out of pocket. We've been getting correspondence from them. And if you guys so vote on this, I'm going to have Mr. Caplis as the chair. You'll have to come down and sign that warrant when that gets set up. So just be aware of that. Just want to make sure you knew that.
Excellent. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, I have a
Mr.
motion.
Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Is it, y'all talking about folks putting money up out of their own pocket and then getting reimbursed? Is this something that is done typically or no?
No. In fact, I was wrong.
Okay.
Apparently, the town did pay the bill.
No, I understand that. I understand what Mr. Graves was saying. I was just curious if this is a practice.
No.
You know what I mean? Okay.
It's
all right.
frowned upon, if I'm correct, right, Adam? That's
Yeah,
something that you
I-
would try to avoid.
Yeah, I don't like it. I've, all the budgets I've run, we avoid that like the plague. So.
Usually the committee will vote prior to make sure, because that you have your own budget on the advisory committee.
Okay.
They'll vote, so you could talk like who's going to go to have folks have money for the MMA. So you ultimately decide, but you only have like 1 or 2 people you could send, I think, is in your budget for the MMA. But that's generally what happens is the board approves it prior. Then you have to still pay for it by committee. Then the chair has to sign on your event.
So the board approval is essentially like obligating the funds for whatever that activity is, and then we just shift the money between the budgets depending to you guys, right?
That's the process.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but usually you'll talk amongst yourselves and the committee decides, because it's ultimately the advisory committee's decision as a body.
Is there formal paperwork for approving funds to be obligated, or is it basically a vote?
It's just
And
a
then-
vote. And then,
Just a vote with the meeting minutes, and then that's it? Okay,
at the end, then the board votes to pay the bill. Then once that vote, then authorizes John to sign.
The warrant.
got it. And your warrant's like a receipt, or it's like a payable check out of the advisory committee budget, essentially. That's what that, okay,
Yeah, out of the budget and out of the general fund.
okay.
Any other questions? Excellent. Motion.
Me too.
Any other discussion?
No,
Excellent. Paul?
Yes,
Roll call vote. Cam?
Yes.
Mr. Francis?
yes,
And I vote yes as well. Now on F, it says annual schedule of meetings, potential dates and times. Now, obviously with the potential, with the potential bylaw changes going to the select board for their adjudication and determination based on what we present to them. And obviously we all have busy lives, but we also have a responsibility and a duty to our community and to our fellow Templeton residents. But I'm kind of leaning towards like the second. When's your thing, Cam? Was it the third Thursday?
Yeah, third. So I'm sorry I couldn't make it last week. I do have obligations on the third Thursday of the month. So the night still works for me. It's just that third Thursday. So if we can alternate to the second and the fourth Thursday, if that's acceptable to everybody, it would be greatly appreciated because I wouldn't be able to make the third Thursday every month.
Well, at this point, I'm thinking right now doing like just the second Thursday of the month. And then when we roll into the budget season, which is coming fast and furious, with the select board, obviously, as you know, we developed a program where the advisory committee now is joint with the select board during that process in the same room as they go through as the directorates go through their budgetary processes. So other than that time frame, I think the second Tuesday of the month, from 6:30 to whenever we're done with our business, I think should be adequate enough. Unless something changes and we need to do an emergency meeting and then I have the obligation to call that obviously within the 48-hour rules based on the open meeting law. As it stands right now, I mean, obviously, unless anybody else has any other issues, conflicts.
Did you say Tuesdays or Thursdays?
I'm sorry, Thursdays.
Thursdays. Okay.
Thursday of each month.
Second, so next one would be February 10th,
Yes.
second Thursday of the month. Okay, got it.
And what days do the select board meet? It's Wednesdays. Is it the first and third or second and fourth?
So first and third, correct, Adam?
We're February 9th, and then we're meeting again. Actually, you bring up a good point. So we also have a joint meeting with the select board February 23rd when we release the budget, because we give the budget to the advisory committee too.
Right. So it will be Feb 10 for us and Feb 23rd in February. And Feb 23 is a Wednesday, correct?
Feb 23rd is Wednesday. But remember, you got the joint meeting tentatively scheduled for March 12th. That's Saturday all day with the department heads come in with the advisory committee and the select board. So you also have that meeting with us as well.
And that's on March 12th, which is a Saturday.
Correct.
That starts at what, 8? You said? Was it 8 or 9?
Wait a second. You didn't tell me I had to come in on Saturdays with this gig, John. What the hell?
John didn't tell you that?
No, of course he didn't. He omitted some certain details to this.
I'll take care of
No, I remember doing it. That's not a problem. I'll be there on
one day.
We start at 8:30 a.m. with the Public Works Department.
8:38. Oh boy.
I'll bring the coffee. You'll be all right.
Yeah. Bring the Baileys.
Mr. Caplis,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, but the second Thursday of each month is actually taken by the Community Preservation Committee.
Excellent. Thank you.
That's when they meet, so unfortunately, that's a conflict.
Yes, it would be.
So that makes it the options would be the first Thursday then, right?
It
Or
would
the
be
fourth.
the first Thursday or the fourth Thursday. Any other recommendations? I just didn't. I mean, again, I'm just as new with this as everybody else, but I mean, for what we're trying to do and collectively get our thoughts together to advise, the powers that be to do some good things for the people. Meeting twice a month, I didn't really think that there would be really that much of a need. And then obviously once we go into budget season, which is our main responsibilities, be overseeing that process and as well as the warrant process, then times can change a little bit. But I think once a month, I think would be key. Which will be at the first Thursday of each month or the fourth Thursday of each month. Anybody have any specific recommendations?
I move for the fourth Thursdays. Give us some time to get caught up, get a bunch of reading done. There was a bunch of stuff that just sort of came up in this meeting that I'm aware of, but I also want to have time to review.
Understood.
If that's okay with you guys.
Cameron, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That works for me.
Okay. All right. So what I'll do is I'll put like a timeline and a schedule together with Adam, so with the joint meetings, so I can actually produce some type of calendar that's, from now to the end of the fiscal year. So we all have a snapshot of like when the meetings are, so there's no surprises. So joint meetings with the select board, as well as our specific meetings on the fourth Thursday of each month, and then working with Adam to make sure that comes together, and also with Justice as well. Anybody have any questions with that? Any problems?
The only problem I can foresee is we're going to have a meeting Wednesday, the 23rd of February, right? And then we'll have the 24th as a meeting as well. Do we want another meeting so sudden? I think it would make sense after we do all the budgets, but then we're having the all-day meeting the 12th. So do we
It
want?
makes sense to have our meeting before the meeting on the 23rd.
No, meeting after.
That doesn't matter.
So it'd be the 23rd would be a joint meeting for the
Okay.
select board, right? And then the 24th, the following day, would be our regularly scheduled meeting on the fourth Thursday. And then as it stands, we have an all-day meeting the second Saturday of March. And then we'd have our regular scheduled meeting the 24th with the fourth Thursday, which is actually 5 Thursdays in March, which is in and of itself. So I think that makes sense if we have a meeting right after the joint, and maybe we can clean up some stuff and get it back to the select board if need be. I think that'd be most appropriate.
I think that would, at this point in the juncture, I think moving forward from this point, I think it's a good starting point.
Okay. So do we need a motion to that, or is that just an acknowledgement from the chair and your?
I think I just need an acknowledgement, right, Adam, at this point? I don't think I need to make a motion for that.
Chair sets the agenda.
Excuse me?
Chair sets a date in the agenda.
Okay.
If you want to have it formalized where the committee has you do it, but I think it's at the discretion of the chair myself.
Understood.
Yeah, I would say that as well.
I
So
agree.
John, as long as you take what we have under advisement, I'm comfortable not taking a motion on it.
Yep, and I'll like I said, I'll get a calendar together from this point forward, going to the end of the fiscal year with the joint session meetings with the select board and our meetings as well. And I'll have that. I'll probably just give me that's a due out by me. Just give me about a week. I should have it done in about a week, and I'll work with Justice to make sure that we get that out to the members. Okay. Okay, excellent. Any other discussion for the group? Thoughts at this point?
I do have one general comment.
Yes.
This is the general comment. I read the State Division of Local Services newsletter, and it appears that the money for roads and the general age of the town went up a little bit, which is a good thing. But then also reading, it also appears that the regional school bus transportation item was cut by 5.5%. And although the school budget's not really our purview, it is, if the fuel went up for transportation by 100 grand, and if they cut 5.5%, which would be about 100 grand for the town, that's a swing of 200 grand. And I just think that we should make our elected representatives know about this, that this is really, it's not a good direction for the town. And I'm very surprised that they cut that budget when I think that we have nagged our representatives about the fact that it's been underfunded historically. That's all I have, Mr. Caplis.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I comment on Mr. Francis's
Please do.
statement?
Mhm.
I'm with you 100% on that. I think the regional busing situation, where they've been, lack of a better phrase, they've been porking us on that for quite some time, and they need to fully fund it, right? Because when they underfund it, it's their statement is that it makes us pay for it, or it gives us the ability to chip in and really want. But at the end of the day, that's political pandering, in my opinion. And Mr. Francis, if you feel very passionate about that, I would suggest that if you could draft a letter that we could send out to our local representatives or our state level representatives, that the advisory committee can sign off on and just mail out and elicit a response from them. It doesn't have to be anything above and beyond, but I think it's important that to your point, we make this, because this is an obligation that we're going to have to fund. And to your point, it is going to cost us money, and it is going to lead to further contention with the school committee. because we're kind of at their mercy as to what their proposed budgets are. So if you are so inclined and you do feel strongly about it, I would encourage the draft of a letter, and we can endorse it.
I intend to write a draft letter. I was going to write a letter as a private citizen anyway. And, you know, I only raised it because I think it should be raised with our representatives.
Mhm.
And I would
I would
certainly
agree.
write a letter, and I'll have it for the next meeting.
I'll put that on the next agenda item. At the next meeting, I'll put that on the agenda. Because you're right. I think at the end of the day, Paul, you kind of knew him, but I mean, I got, you know, kids in all levels of school, from pre-K all the way to, you know, a junior in high school. So I get it. And, you know, when the regional school districts were formed, they were told that it was going to be 100%, you know, transportation will be 100% funded based on appropriations, is the word of magic numbers here, appropriation. So basically under the appropriation rule, the governor's budget. So, I mean, but you cut the budget by 5.5% when we're already getting 62% anyways. You know, now we're under almost, you know, 58% funded of a transportation budget, which again, we're not talking like a, you know, couple $100,000. It's almost $1 million, but I mean, it's very expensive with these buses, and people don't know. And I think you're right. I think you're on the right track. I think if you draft a letter for us to endorse, I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've had representatives in front of us. And when we wore other hats years ago, and we were saying the exact same thing, that this is not right. I mean, it's not right for all levels. It's not right for the Monty Tech group or the Narragansett Regional School District group. You know, when we have to pay the bill, we just get a bill in the mail and we have to pay the bill. And that covers like everything that we need to do. But I think if we can, you know, hopefully get a letter to them, and you know, we can see what they can do. I know they do their best. I mean, as far as, but it's all politics at this point too. It's all politics and money, and you know, it's, you know, we're being told now the state has a surplus of money. I'm like, oh, great, but where's that surplus going? You know, obviously I don't know. I mean, I wish they would fund more of the busing for the schools, definitely.
Mr. Chair, if I can.
Yes.
I do want to say that the Chapter 70 is at a historical level on the preliminary cherry sheets that were released for fiscal year 23. The Narragansett Regional School District went from $9,988,464 to $10,675,357. So, and the increase in transportation was only $34K. But overall, I mean, we're seeing historical numbers. Justice and I were just reviewing it. Justice, did you want to add anything further on this?
No, I was just gonna, permission from the chair.
Absolutely.
Okay. I was just gonna say that, yeah, well, I didn't know that was the report from the DLS, but when we looked at the preliminary cherry sheets that came out yesterday, Narragansett's regional transportation right now is set to be, you know, like Mr. LaMontagne said, you know, 30K higher. Different categories have gone up, and across the board, Chapter 70 for regional schools has been driven up significantly, in some cases as high as 2 million for some schools. In our case, it's around 600,000. So just keep that in mind. Again, it's going to be interesting to see if those numbers hold, but that's what we saw in the cherry sheets.
Right. Okay. Great.
And what was that proportional increase you said? I didn't quite catch the full numbers, but what was the increase on the estimate, Adam, like percentage base?
Chapter 70 percentage wise, I don't have the percentages. I can say that it's almost $700,000.
So that's about 7% if it's 9 million.
Roughly, but the year before that, Justice, what was it? I have the numbers here. So it was 9,951,444 in fiscal year 21. So it only went up 30,000 from 21 to 22, and now it went up almost 700,000. That's huge.
And is that based on the number of kids as well in the school district?
I think it was just based on the regional school district. Senator Goby certainly worked hard, and
Excellent.
it worked out.
Okay, great. I mean, that's always positive. Good news. Good news. You have anything to add?
No.
Okay. All right, any other discussion on that?
Adam, do you think you can forward over or Justice the cherry sheet estimates that you received?
Justice, could you send that off or you want me to?
I can send that off on Monday. I can put all that information and just send it out to them from the website.
Yeah,
It's on
don't
Mass.
kill yourself for it. We're not going to need it for some time. But
Right.
the earlier you can get it out, the better.
I appreciate that. All right, member comments at this point. I'll start with Mr. Francis.
I'm all set. I made my comment.
Excellent. Paul, you make any public comments or any comments? Member comment?
Just happy to be here and help out.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Cameron? Stage is yours.
I'm going to look like you by the end of this stint here, but
Oh.
Paul, I do want to extend out to you too. I mean, keeping open meeting law violation and rules kind of in concern, but if you have any questions that you want to ask me or Adam or John or even Mr. Francis here, we're a wealth of knowledge. So we might be talking about stuff that might go over just because you haven't heard of what a cherry sheet is before or whatnot, right?
I got my list.
Feel free to reach out to,
Oh, yeah.
anybody on this committee, you can only reach out to one of them or else we're going to be in violation.
Okay.
But feel free to ask those questions. If you don't know something, go ahead and reach out and
Yep.
get familiar. We're here to help and we're here to make this a strong committee. And then Adam's very, very good with what he does and Justice is also very good. So any questions, if anything's going over your head, just feel free to reach out and we'll ground you because there's a lot of terminology that if you haven't been in this world, it's like drinking from a fire hose, but it's not really that complicated. It's just the terminology. So I encourage you.
It's I'm picking up I'm tracking on what a lot of the terms are. They're just different terms.
Do a good job for the town and for this committee and keep us strong and moving forward. Yes, I'm
Chair.
Yeah.
I don't know the etiquette. So if I do something wrong, please correct me right away so that I'm not saying something wrong or doing something out of turn or I
John's
picked
very
up on
strict
them.
on the rules. So you
What's
watch
that?
out, he'll snap.
Yeah. I just don't want to.
There is Robert's Rules of Order. If you go through that book, Robert's Rules of Order is the way things are supposed to be formally done. We don't operate as a Senate or a Parliament, but typically when you're speaking, use Robert's Rules of Order. We'll tell you about motion, seconding, and all that stuff. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I can answer a lot of them, or Adam can as well. And that's what Mass Town Meeting really bases itself on is Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah, point of order. Right?
Yes.
Move
Point.
on.
Well, what is your point of order? You got to say something.
Moving on. That's what. Good call. Good call. Thank you so much, Cam. I really can't thank you enough. Paul, same. Mr. Francis, same. I mean, and all the employees of the town. I mean, they're doing a fantastic job. I always like to give a shout out because these directorates, they're doing a great job. These chiefs are doing a great job. These workers, I mean, this town would not run without them. And just people need to keep that in mind. I mean, we get our roads plowed. We get police are there when they call 911, fire trucks and ambulances show up. I just want to make sure people are aware that, this town is on the right track. It really is.
We
And I
just
hope
need
we
to
can-
stop, snowing on weekends and holidays.
What's that?
We just need to stop snowing on weekends and holidays. That would be great.
Since you brought that up,
I'm gonna resist, Mr. Chair. I mean,
I understand. That's why we can go in a deficit with snow and ice, right? Anyways, well, thank you all. Entertain a motion at this point to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I see none. Kim?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Francis?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you have a great